Talk about pushing boundaries. I just whipped in here from the jungle literally a few hours ago. No, I did a few days ago, actually. I really was excited to be here. Red Deer is my hometown, for those of you that don't know me. I have quite the journey in the last 2 years, and food has become such a passion for me in so many ways, and I'm going to share with you some insights on how to eat healthier and how to live a more inspired life, all in 10 minutes or less, and show you how to make some raw vanilla cream cakes as well. So I know that you've had a lot of speakers throughout the day, so I want to take a minute for everybody to just close your eyes, and I want you to imagine what healthy feels like to you. What are you eating? What kind of physical activities do you engage in? What does it feel like to feel healthy? And not only what does it feel like to feel healthy, but what does it feel like to live your inspired life? I hope that you've had some inspirations from other speakers, but I hope that more so, including in my talk, that you take this information and internalize it to think of how you can live more healthfully and more inspired in your own life. So now you can open your eyes. And I do have, before we get started, for anybody who wants recipes, I always forget people want recipes. So if you want recipes from today, please feel free to put your name and email down, and I will get you the recipe for the raw vanilla cream cakes. We're going to be tasting them outside the door afterwards. There you are. Okay, so what is healthy? I get asked this all the time. Okay, Kristin, what is healthy? And I really like to simplify things a lot. How many of you would say that you struggle with hearing all these controversies around this is healthy or that is healthy, or the opposing, I guess, information as well? This is really bright. Opposing information, or the whole gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, wheat-free, vegetarian, vegan. Is there any frustrations in the crowd? Okay, well, hopefully I can simplify this a lot for you. One thing that I usually focus on is simplification, but one of these studies that really showcases a lot around the different illnesses and diseases in the world. What are people eating in these countries that have the lowest rates of illness and disease, and what are people eating in these countries that have the highest rates of illness and disease? From heart disease to cancer to diabetes, we now know that these things are really directly related to what we're eating. And there's one thing that's a correlation. Does anybody know what it is around food? The amount of plant-based foods you're consuming. So the countries with the lowest rates of diabetes, cancer, heart disease are eating the most plant-based foods, and the ones that are eating the least plant-based foods have the highest rates of diabetes, cancer, and diabetes. Does that mean that we have to be vegetarian or vegan or all these things? And that's definitely, the answer is no. But I think it's a general consensus that we can all agree on that we need more fruits and vegetables, and we've been told this since we were little kids, that we need to eat more fruits and vegetables. And in my opinion, that keeps it really simple. We need to eat more fruits and vegetables. We need to eat more natural foods. Whatever you're eating, we need to eat it in its natural whole state. Doesn't that simplify things a little bit? Now, there's another element to this, because now we're like, okay, how do you make this food taste good? And that's sort of been my mission. I come from a very unhealthy state. I'll share with you a little bit of my story, just enough so that you can inspire you on your own. But it's really difficult for most people to understand their taste buds and how to make things taste good. So it's been my mission to try to make all of these healthy foods that we're supposed to eat with more phytonutrients, more fiber, all of these health benefiting ingredients. How do you make them taste good and enjoyable to taste? So we're going to taste something that is dairy-free, gluten-free. There is nuts, right? There's always some element that somebody's not going to be able to have this. It is a nut-based dessert, so be mindful of that. But there's always an alternative. But the other thing that I want to share with you is to focus on nutrient density. I don't believe in calorie counting. I don't believe in portion control. I believe in eating nutrient-dense foods that nourish you, that satisfy you, that you enjoy, and that's all you really need in the end. So we think about nutrient density, and then we want to think about a holistic approach to food, rather than a science-based approach. Science is great to read and to learn and to, we need to continuously learn because we are ultimately our own best teachers. We're ultimately our own best teachers when it comes to what you eat. I've worked with people through every kind of diet imaginable. Which one's the best? Which one's the right one? I've seen people go from vegan to back to eating meat. I've seen people who thrived, who went from eating meat to thriving on a fully vegan diet when they do it the right way. And I've seen the opposite. So it's not one is right or one is wrong. It's which one works best for you. And I always say the proof is in the pudding, right? It really does come down to that. And what are you willing to do in your own social life, in your lifestyle? What changes are you willing to make too? It's not about, that's why I think a holistic approach is so important, because it's not just about what you're nourishing in your body, but how are you nourishing your heart? How are you enjoying your life? I started my journey as a mechanical engineer working at coal mines in Sparwood, BC. And I used to wake up to 7-Eleven coffees, go to work, have a donut for breakfast, of course, and live off of 7-Eleven candies most of the day and come home to frozen, what do you call them, chicken cordon bleus, pop those in the oven, and that was my dinner. And I lived like that for about a year, and I drank a lot of beer on the weekends with my friends, and slowly my body started to shut down. And I have yet to meet a client who is anywhere near the state of unhealthiness that I was in. So it's kind of that cliche, like, if I can do it, you can do it. So I sent myself to a rejuvenation center called the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, and it's in Arizona, and it focuses on plant-based foods. And never in a million years did I ever imagine myself eating or drinking things like wheatgrass and raw living foods and all these types of things. But this doctor, he focused on food for depression, food for diabetics. I started to witness people who were on 25 years insulin-dependent diabetes go off of their insulin in 3 days. And it kind of shifted me a lot. Through my own experience of it, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. You couldn't tell me what was healthy or what wasn't. It was working for me. What I went through worked for me. So I know what's good for my body, and I also know what's not good for it, and sometimes both go in. It's okay. Because I found that there was something even more important. When I came back, I learned how to be healthy, and then I come back to my life as an engineer, and there was something that I was missing, and a big piece of that puzzle was missing, was how do I live a more happy life? Now I had this passion. How many of you would you say are actually living your passion? How many of you would say you don't know what your passion is? And how many of you would say you know what your passion is, but you're not quite there yet? Okay, those are the ones I really want to focus on a lot. Because if you don't know what your passion is, I encourage you to take whatever time you need to figure that out. I didn't really know what my passion was. I thought I was just going to have a great job, go to school, become an engineer, make a good living, and I was going to be happy, and the world kind of threw me for a loop. And so I came back, and now all of a sudden, now I have this passion about food and wellness and all these things, but now I don't really know how to do it because I'm stuck in the job that I don't really enjoy. And it's not to say people that are engineers don't enjoy their jobs. I was around quite a few that actually did, and I started to think, like, you actually like this? You like this? I don't really like this. But then I went through all these fears of how the heck do I do what I really want to do? And one of my dreams was to go to New York City and go to the Natural Gourmet Institute. It was a culinary school that, again, focuses on all of these things around Ayurveda, macrobiotics, and food and healing, and helping people really find ways to kind of heal their bodies and kind of get back to basics, whether it be like performance nutrition or wellness, whatever it is. I'm fascinated by food and what it does to your well-being. So that was my dream. But then the thoughts come into your head of, I can't afford it. How the heck am I going to make a living doing this? All of these things that I see in countless people now that have these fears, and that's what this is all about, pushing our boundaries. And I'm like, okay, what advice could I give to somebody that is like wanting to do something, but they're just fearful of it? And I think about, people say, how did you quit your job? I got my PN, I got my designation, I got my stamp, I finished, I got my bonus, I got my up the ladder, and I wrote a resignation letter, and I sent it in 2 weeks later. I was on a plane to New York City. People are like, how did you do that? Well, I wrote the letter. I gave it to my boss. You know, the logistics of doing these things, even when you think about what it is you want to do, the logistics of doing it are actually quite simple. But then there's something inside of us that holds us back, right? It's like, oh, I want to do that, but. And I think about the millions of buts that I had, and now I see it in other people, right? Once you've kind of gone through your own buts, and then you see it in other people, and you're like, gosh, if you could just see the other side. And I look at fear now, and I think that's sort of the message I want to impart on all of you, is fear is sort of a tool to cultivate faith. So I used fear as a tool to cultivate faith, and I was like, okay, somebody do something for me here, because I just quit my job, and I bought a plane ticket to New York City, and I'm going to school that I can't afford, and I have no idea what's in store for me. And one magical thing after next magical thing after next magical thing happened. And this is what happens to most people that follow their hearts. And you hear about it and you read about it. And many of you that are in this room that are actually living what you love, you know this. You know that the right person comes in when you're like, oh, I need to design a website. And then the next day somebody comes around and they're like, oh, I'm a website designer. Okay, I need that, you know? And for me, it's been beyond that. And I started to really play with this a little bit, because I experienced it for myself, and I started to play with it. I'm like, wow, you know, it's like, what if you know, when we talk about gratitude, I always tell my clients that, you know, gratitude is like eggs. You know, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, the gratitude or the things to be grateful for? And I really believe the gratitude comes first. The feelings come first. You cultivate the feeling of how you want to feel, and the experiences will come match that. You know, people are like, Kristin, you're living such an inspired life. This year I've been to New York, Dubai, Los Angeles, and I just got out of the jungle of Colombia 2 days ago, playing with kids in the Amazon. It was awesome. You know, and I'm like, how is this happening to me? How is this happening to me? And I truly believe, like, the minute I started to cultivate gratitude in my life, it was like, it just starts to come, you know? And I've watched it in so many of my clients' lives. I look at them struggle with their food addictions, when really it's more of a lack of communication with your own heart, a lack of trust in what you really want to do, and that's where our overeating comes into play. All these types of things, we have to look at this as a holistic perspective. The food, the life, the happiness, all of it has to be part of our whole being. I'm going to show you how to make these cream cakes. But does that make sense? Does that sound good? Okay. I don't know what time we're at. I'm going to show you guys. This is one of my favorite desserts. So when I went to New York, and one of my dreams was to work at a restaurant called Pure Food and Wine. It's a really high-end kind of plant-based restaurant. And I got my internship there, and it was wonderful. And this is sort of a dessert that's inspired by that restaurant. So easy, so delicious, so nutritious. And these are something that you can keep in your freezer. Once you taste them, you can play with this recipe as much as you want. And you know, you can add chocolate to it and make it a chocolate cream cake. But these are raw vanilla cream cakes. And the way you make them is you make a crust, okay? This is actually really funny, because I left my little, oh, you have my coconut oil. Okay. And my coconut oil. I have in the fridge, I have a box with the pan, the little cheesecake pan. I need that if you could grab it. Okay. Like I said, I'm pushing boundaries, like showing up 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be on stage. Okay. So really, really easy. To make a crust, this is no bake. There's no baking involved. This takes 10 minutes or less if you have everything ready to go. So literally, if you want to make any crust, you don't need to bake anything. You make it with, for those of you that are not nut and seed intolerant. If you are like if you're allergic to almonds or anything like that, you can use whatever nuts and seeds you want. And literally, if you want to make this a seed base, you could use things like hemp seeds or sunflower seeds. But I do almonds and pecans. This is a 1/4 cup of each, almonds and pecans. And then I throw in some dates and some cacao. So this is just another 1/4 cup of raw chocolate. And chocolate, everybody's always so worried about Oh, you know, I want to be healthy, but I just love chocolate. Well, look at the quality of your chocolate you're having. Chocolate, as we know and we hear this, that it's one of the most health-benefiting foods on the planet. It's high in antioxidants, high in magnesium, high in bone-building minerals. It's when we start adding the dairy and the sugar and roasting it and putting it into these chocolate bars and then eating that, that's when it's unhealthy. But you can get beautiful chocolate from Pure Earth Organics, downtown Red Deer. You get it in the powder and you put it in your desserts. So I'm just going to blast this. You can add coconut flakes to this, whatever you want. And this makes a beautiful crust. Let's see if this works. And we don't have power. And we have power. So basically, then you have you just ground it all up into a powder. We add our dates. You can do basically, this is a 1/4 cup. You can do, it depends on how soft your dates are, and it depends on how fatty your nuts are. But if you're doing like almonds, let's say almonds to dates, you want to basically do 2 parts nuts to 1 part dried fruit. So you could do raisins, for example, dates, whatever you want. Does that make sense? Am I being cheeky? Okay, so, but if you have something like cashews, they're a fattier nut, so you don't need as much dates. You literally can get away with a lot less, right? Boom. We have a beautiful crust done. So you basically take it, you can do a press test, and you press that into a pan. And I have a little cheesecake pan that I put these in. You can put it in any kind of cake pan you want. Yay. No, not that one. It's the little, it's the little cheese, it's in the fridge. It's in a box. And it's got 12 little cakes. It's okay, it doesn't matter. I just have one that's done in there that I want to show you when I'm all finished. It's like, that's not the one. Okay, so there's our crust. Was that easy? Could you do that at home? Yeah, so easy. And then you press it into your pan. I have these little beautiful mini cheesecake pans. That's what I'm asking her to grab. I had it in the fridge out front. And you just take a spoon, you press it into the bottoms, and then we're going to put our filling in. And our filling is a beautiful cream that turns into like a cheesecake. Okay, but it's not, there's no dairy in it and there's no sugar. We're using cashews as a base. So I have 2 cups of soaked cashews. And you just soak them overnight in a little bit of water, or literally, if you're doing this right away, you can use like a little bit of hot water and just let them soak for like 15 minutes. And if you have a Vitamix, you can blast it pretty good, and then it'll turn into a nice cream. So we do our 2 cups, and then this is where it gets really easy. I'm all about easy. So you do half a cup of your sweetener, which could be maple syrup, or if you have honey, it's really nice too. Half a cup of water, and half a cup of melted coconut oil. Does that sound easy? And that's it. Okay? So we have half a cup of coconut oil, half a cup of water. And if you want to make this chocolatey, like into a chocolate cream cake, it's like chocolate cheesecake. You add half a cup of raw chocolate powder. If you want to make this into blueberry cheesecake, you add half a cup of blueberries. If you want to make this into a strawberry cheesecake, you add, there you go. Okay, so really, really easy. You blast that up. And then you put them into this. You can put it in any pan you want. And then, but I love these pans because everybody thinks you're really gourmet when you put it in these pans. And you pop it out like that. And they have this little bottoms on them. Done. Beautiful cheesecake. This sets in the fridge like for an hour. You keep them in the freezer. You top it with a little raspberry. You go enjoy one outside, and you enjoy the recipe too. I think I'm over my time, but thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed TEDx.